So let us see what is how to create this type checker. Okay, so as I told you earlier, type checker is nothing but it's a sub module, we can say sub module in semantic analyzer, right, which will take care of this type checking related task, right. Now let us see how to design such a type checker. So if you want to design a type checker, you need to know about the type system. Okay, so let me introduce you some terminology related to type system. Then we'll go for the actual STT. Okay, so here we go. Right, types. What is type? Type is nothing but every expression has an associated type. Every expression, like you take any construct, okay, each and every construct is associated with one type. Okay, if you want to evaluate the type of a particular construct, there are some rules. Okay, so by using those rules, you can say the type of this particular expression is, say, of type int, or of type float, or of type, say, some character or something like that. Okay, what are those rules? They are said to be type rules, right? If you add, subtract, or multiply two integer operands, the result is an integer. Okay, so suppose if you perform any arithmetic operation on two integers, right, then the result is also an integer, right? The result type, okay, the type of the result is integer. How we are obtaining this, the type of the result? By means of its ingredients. Okay, what are the ingredients here? Ingredients in the operation, integers. Okay, if the operands are integers, then the result is automatically an integer, right? If you take the address of an operand of type t, the type of the result is pointer to t, right? So if you are taking the address of an operand of type t, so suppose address of an operand, let's say integer, then the type of the result, address means what? Address of a variable is nothing but a pointer, no? Pointer to t, pointer to that type. Okay, these are the some examples for the rules, type rules. Okay, so what I meant to say here is rules exist to assign a type to an expression. Okay, if there is an ampersand of a, okay, if z equals to ampersand of a, then if a is of type int, then we can say z is a pointer to integer. Z is a pointer to integer. Okay, so that is the type rule. Rules exist to assign a type to an expression. In Pascal and C, these types are either basic, maybe they are part of the language, or can be constructed from the basic rules. I mean, we can say derived rules, right? So the next terminology is a type expression. Okay, a type expression is the type of a programming language construct, right? Type of a programming language construct. Like if you take an array, for example, let us consider an array, right? If array stores floating point numbers, okay, array is a homogeneous type, no? Like array is a collection of homogeneous types, homogeneous elements, okay, elements of the same type. If the array contains all the floating point numbers, then we can say it is a floating point array. Okay, the type expression corresponding to that particular language construct array is float. Similarly, if it contains integers or decimal numbers, then we can call it as an integer array. Okay, the type expression corresponding to that is integer. Like if you perform x plus y, where x is of type integer and y is of type real, and if the result is obtained is a real, then we can say the expression, I mean the type expression associated with this operation is real. Okay, like that, right? So we are assuming that if we perform these operations, there may be chance of getting this type. Okay, right? So the outcome of the operation, the type of that outcome, okay, is based on the operands involved in that operation, the types. Okay, so based on that we'll assume, right, the type of the result or the expression, right? So there is a special basic type called type error, signals an error during type checking. Okay, if there is a type mismatch or type incompatibility arises when you're trying to find out a type expression for a particular statement, then the type checker will generate uh, an error called type underscore error. Okay, it signals an error during type checking. In some languages, they will include a void type. Okay, so in some languages we have a generic type. Void star is there, no? Generic, right? Generic means anything can be assigned to any other. I mean, there is no notion of this compatibility. Generic pointers, they can hold any type of data, right? Next, applying type constructors to type expression. Okay, applying type constructors to type expression forms new type expression. Okay, by applying type constructors like arrays, records, pointers, Cartesian input. Okay, they will form new type expression. Okay, array is a new type expression. Similarly, records is a new type expression. Okay, right? So these are all derived types, we can say, derived type expressions. Arrays, records, structures, pointers, Cartesian input, right? A function maps elements from one set to another set. So suppose mod has type int into int, int cross into to int. Okay, a function maps elements from one set. So what is the set here? What is the domain? Int cross int is the domain, two integers. Okay, and the range is another range, right? Similarly, function a comma b char to f has char into char, then the pointer to integer, pointer to integer. Okay, so I mean the type expression can be specified by means of a function also. Okay, function also. So we'll see the example so that it will be more clear to you. So it is somewhat abstract. You need to have a lot of command in these context-free grammars and the programming language grammars and the long-range details, so that you can better understand these concepts, right? Okay, a lot of things going behind the compiler. Okay, you should have, whenever you try to try to design a compiler, you should have a strong command over the language and its grammar, especially grammar. Okay, you may be a good programmer, you can write the programs beautifully in C, but if you don't know the grammar rules of C, you cannot design the proper compiler, right? So next we'll see a type system. Type system is a collection of rules. Okay, so in fact the type checker is implemented by means of type systems only. A type system is basically a collection of rules for assigning type expressions, right? As I told you, a type checker implements a type system. Different type systems may be used by different compilers of the same language. Okay, it varies from designer to designer. based on their requirements, based on their need, they will design the type checkers or the type systems in different ways. Okay, a type checker should adequately handle error recovery. This is very, very important. Okay, whenever there is an error, if you remember, compiler never stops. If an error occurs, it will never stop. It will continue with the next line or the remaining code. Okay, it will just prompt the error message and it will continue its work. Okay, it will never stop. Right? If it stops, then what happens is it will take more time for the compilation itself. But interpreters, as and when there is an error, interpreter will simply stop and notify that error, right? So whenever you design a type checker, you should take care of. I mean, your type checker must handle uh, all the error recovery procedures, right? So as I told you in the very first slide, static versus dynamic check. In principle, any check can be done dynamically if the target code carries type information. Okay. So this dynamic checking can be carried out during the runtime if the type information is, I mean, if the code carries the type information. Okay, if the code doesn't carry the type information, then it is very difficult for the dynamic check. Okay, if you don't know the type of a particular variable while running it, we cannot go ahead, right? A sound type system eliminates the need for dynamic checking. Okay, a sound type system, a sound static type system, or the static type checker eliminates the need for dynamic checking. Okay, the languages which support a sound static type system or static type checking are said to be strongly typed languages. Okay, I'm repeating again. Whenever we say a language is strongly typed, that means there is a minimal chance of getting, there is a less chance of getting the type errors while executing the program. Okay, all the type errors are getting rectified during the compilation process itself. Okay, you don't get any the type errors while executing the program. Such languages, are said to be strongly typed languages. Strongly typed languages. Okay. So in practice, some checks can only be done dynamically, checking array indices. Those are the special cases, right? So, but perhaps array boundary checking is not there, but array index checking is, it can only be done during the execution of the program, right? So here is a simple type checker. So the one that is shown here is the grammar, the contextual grammar to define the type system. What is P? P derives D. D is definition followed by semicolon followed by expression. D could be another definition followed by semicolon followed by another definition, or it could be an ID followed by T. So this grammar is for Pascal, don't confuse. Okay, so this is the contextual grammar for the Pascal language. Okay, the grammar that is shown here is related to Pascal language. There the syntax is something like this: variable name followed by colon followed by T. That means if you want to declare an integer variable, this is how we declare integer variable in Pascal: x followed by colon followed by int. But in C it is different. First the data type name comes first, followed by space, followed by variable name. Okay, don't confuse. Then T is the type, no, data type. Type could be char or integer or an array of, I mean the constructor type, array of number of T, or it could be a pointer to T. Right arrow means pointer in um, Pascal, right? Then what is the expression? Expression could be a literal, any constant, any string constant, or it could be a number, or it could be an identifier, a name given to a variable, or it could be an expression like E mod E, or it could be E of E. Okay, it could be an array name, or it could be something like an exponential this one. Okay, I think this is the point writing E followed by this right arrow. I don't know the exact meaning of this one, the last one. So I will check and tell you that in the next class. The simple language above allows a sequence of declarations followed by a single expression. Sequence of declarations. See here, program could be D. What is D? D could be a list of D declarations separated by semicolon. Okay, like that. A simple syntax variety definition can specify a type checker for this language. Now, what we are trying to do is we are going to write a syntax variety definition (SVD), okay, which can verify the type expressions of this grammar. Okay, see here. So this is the production rule, and we have added a semantic rule. See, this is the attribute grammar that we are talking about. So D derives ID colon T. Okay. So whenever you are about to reduce ID colon T to D, then what you have to do? You have to assign T to ID. That means the type of ID is assumed to be T or assigned to be D. So that is what we are doing here. In the semantic rule, what we are doing here is we are creating an entry in the symbol table for ID. Okay. So in that entry, the type value, the type of ID is inserted as T. Okay, we will put T. What is T here? T could be a character or it could be an integer. See here, T char. If you are about to reduce char to T, then T dot type is char. If you are about to reduce T to integer, T dot type is integer. Right? So this is for pointer, as I told you earlier. T derives up arrow followed by T1. Then T dot type can be assumed from pointer of T1 dot type. Okay, pointer of integer, it's an integer pointer or floating pointer, like that. Array of num of T. Then T dot type can be assumed from array of num comma the number of elements comma T1 dot type. What is T1 here? The array name, array type. Okay, the array type is assumed as the T type. Right? So that means what I mean to say here is, let us assume there is a copy statement. Y goes to A, where A is an array. Okay? Where A is an array. Right? And Y is of type integer. Right? So if you want to evaluate the semantic information of Y goes to A, the compiler need to know what is the type of A and what is the type of Y. Okay? Since Y is of, say suppose Y is of type integer, then if A is of type integer array, okay, it is an array of type integers, then we can assign A to Y. If it is of different type, say suppose if it is a floating point array or a string array or a character pointer array, okay, then such an assignment leads to an error. It's illegal, right? Few more rules. E derives literal, then E dot type equals to char. Literal means character, right? E dot type equals to, if E derives, when you are about to reduce num to E, E dot type is integer. What is number? Generally numbers are considered to be integers in past tense. Right? E dot type equals to ID dot type. So for mod, see, generally mod operation assumes both operands must be of type integer. Okay, when one operand is integer, the other operand is float, then E1 dot mod, E1 mod E2 would generate an error. Okay, see here, E dot type is, if E1 dot type is integer and E2 dot type is integer, then integer. Else, for all other cases other than the operands to be integers, it will produce a type error. Else type error. These are the semantic rules. Okay. Whenever you carry out this production rule in validation stack or in the passing stack, these rules are carried out in the semantic stack. Semantic stack. See how simple it is. So when you are about to write an SVD, like you can translate this into code. That's it. So that you can have a beautiful semantic type checker with you. Okay. So we are doing that in a systematic way. By using SVTs, you can easily write the syntax directed type checker. So these are all the rules for this. Some of the language concepts. Actually, it is for only few concepts are given here. For the tiny language, I can say. Right. So if you want, you can note down. Otherwise, we'll skip. Okay. So this is the type checker, type checking system. SPD. Now you can see we don't know the rules. No, I mean the evolution order. Semantic rules evolution order తెలియదు కాబట్టి మనం ఏం చేయాలి ఇప్పుడు దీనికి డిపెండెన్సీ గ్రాఫ్ రాయాలి. ఓకే, ఆ డిపెండెన్సీ గ్రాఫ్ బట్టి ఒక టోపోలాజికల్ సార్ట్ తీసుకురావాలి. ఆ టోపోలాజికల్ సార్ట్లో ఈ ఆపరేషన్స్ అన్నీ జరగాలన్నమాట. అప్పుడే మీకు యాక్చువల్ ఎవాల్యుయేషన్ వస్తుంది. ఓకే, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఒక ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ తీసుకోండి. లైక్ ఇందాక చెప్పాను కదా, మోడ్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ తీసుకోండి. ఎక్స్ ఈక్వల్స్ టు సే ఏ మోడ్ బి, రైట్. సో ఎక్స్ ఈక్వల్స్ టు ఏ మోడ్ బి అనే దాంట్లో మనము ఇప్పుడు వచ్చింది. అప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి మనము అంటే మనం ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ సిమాంటిక్ అనాలిసిస్ ఏం చేయాలి, అనలైజర్ ఏం చేయాలి, ఇట్ హ్యాస్ టు లుక్ ఇన్ టు if A has type integer and B has also type integer, then it will assign int to X. Type error. Okay, so that is how it will proceed. That is how you can note down. Otherwise we'll go to the next topic. Okay, I want to hear from you. You want to note down this? Don't want? So the next topic, symbol table, right? So symbol table is, I mean, it is pretty much important and pretty much associated with the semantic analysis. Okay, so that is the reason why I mean it is included in the in this concept. I mean in the semantic analysis, right? As I told you earlier, there are 6 pages in the compiler design process and 2 additional pages. Okay, the 2 additional pages are one is symbol table and the other one is what you call that, error handling page or error handler, you can say. Okay, symbol table is very important data structure associated with the compiler design process, especially with the semantic analysis. The very important thing that you need to observe here is the symbol table is basically, it is a database. Okay, database of the symbols, right? The database of the symbols that are appear in your source program. Okay, so you may ask why we need to store all this information. Why? Because we have the flexibility as a programmer. If you are a high level language programmer, you have the flexibility to define your own data type, your own variables, your own names, Okay, like as I told you in the beginning, like if you want to create a variable called variable to hold some value, okay, generally each one of us will use different names, different names. Like I may use say v, goes to, v stands for value. Somebody may use val, somebody may use vl, somebody may use value, okay, somebody may use say some other thing, data, okay, instead of value some other name, okay. So this flexibility is there, okay. Abstract, I mean the high level programming language give us this flexibility to define our own name, right? So when it comes to compilation, when these names are different, any valid name can be accessible, I mean acceptable, then there should be some way to store them, and there should be some way to retrieve as and when they are required in the compilation process. Right? I have created a variable called val. I am referring that, or I am using that val of that variable, value of that particular variable in the subsequent statement. Okay. So whenever I am inferring the value in the subsequent statement, there I need the information related to val, like what is its value, what is its type, where it is stored, like that. Okay, its location and its associate type. Is it a primitive type or user defined type, or any semantic information can be stored in the symbol table, right? So that is the basic purpose of symbol table. Okay, symbol table is a data structure. Generally, we'll perform the lookup operation. Most of the cases will perform the lookup, that means search operation. Like I told you earlier, no, x equals to y చేయాలి అనుకుంటే మనం ఏం చేస్తాం, ఎక్స్ తాలూకు టైప్ తెలియాలి, అలానే వై తాలూకు టైప్ తెలియాలి కదా. సో అందుకని మనం ఏం చేస్తామంటే ఎక్స్ వై ఎప్పుడైతే మనకు లెక్సికల్ అనాలిసిస్లో ఎక్స్ అపియర్ కాగానే ఎక్స్కి ఒక రికార్డ్ క్రియేట్ చేసేస్తామండి. ఎక్స్ తాలూకు ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అంతా కూడా ఆ రికార్డులో ఉంటుంది సింబల్ టేబుల్లో. అలానే వై అపియర్ కాగానే వై తాలూకు ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ కూడాను సింబల్ టేబుల్లో స్టోర్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం. ఇప్పుడు మనకు ఎక్స్ ఈక్వల్స్ టు వై చేసేటప్పుడు ఎక్స్ తాలూకు టైప్ తెలియాలి, అలానే వై తాలూకు టైప్ తెలియాలి. ఈ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అంతా ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది, ఆల్రెడీ మనం సింబల్ టేబుల్లో స్టోర్ చేసుకుంటాం కాబట్టి సిమాంటిక్ అనలైజర్ ఏం చేస్తుందంటే ఇట్ విల్ లుక్ ఇన్ టు ద సింబల్ టేబుల్. ఓకే, it will look into the symbol table to retrieve the type information of x and the type information of y. Okay, if the type information of x and the type information of y, if it is compatible, then it will say it is okay, it is semantically correct. Otherwise it may generate a semantic error or type mismatch error. Okay, so that is how it will function, right? So that is the reason why symbol table construction is, the symbol table is a very important data structure in the compilation process. So now in this section you will see how to design such a data structure. Okay, as I told you earlier, the basic operations that we can perform on symbol tables are dictionary operations basically. Dictionary in the sense like we can insert the words, we can delete the words, and more frequently we can search for the words. Okay, right? So deletions maybe they may occur very rare, like whenever the scope of a particular variable expires, then you can remove the entry corresponding to that from the symbol table. But insertions and this what you call that lookup operations or the search operations or find operations, they are very often, very often we look into the symbol table to retrieve certain information related to a particular construct or a particular symbol, right? So we need to implement our symbol table with the data structures which are efficient in lookup operations and insertion operations. Okay, right? So this must be done in a quick way, no? Otherwise, it will impact the performance of the compilation or the compiler efficiency. Compiler efficiency will drastically come down if the symbol table lookup will take more time, right? So that is the reason why we'll look into the several alternatives, and we'll come to a conclusion that the hash table is the more suitable data structure to implement symbol table. Okay. Now look at the slide. Much of type checking assumes that we can look up the type of an identifier, need to store identifiers in symbol table. Symbol table is created and used during compilation process. Table is updated whenever a new name or a new information about a name is stored. Okay. So whenever a new name or new information about a particular name is stored, then we'll insert that into the symbol table. The information that is stored into the symbol table, right? Compilers must be able to add new entries or find existing entries efficiently. Can implement table as a linked list or hash table. Linked list implementation is perhaps a simple one, but it will take more time for the lookup operation since it involves order of n time complexity for the lookup operation. Hash table is somewhat efficient than the linked list, that we will see. So what are the symbol table entries? So just have a look at this. What must be the record? I mean the column headers of the record. Each entry in a symbol table is for the declaration of a name. Okay. Format for entries does not have to be uniform. Each entry can be in the form of a record. Some information about a name can point it to by the pointer in the record. Keywords should be entered initially, if at all, not necessary if intercepted by lexical analyzer. If keywords are already identified in the lexical analyzer case, there is no need to have records in a symbol table corresponding to keywords. Okay. Some information about a name can point to by a pointer in the record. Okay. So this is to avoid duplication, right? So I have already stored the information corresponding to X somewhere in the symbol table. X appears several times in the in my program. So there is no need to repeatedly store that information. Okay. Whenever X is referred, I will just use that reference point. Okay, or the pointer corresponding to the location of the X record. Okay, so I'm going to use that pointer whenever I refer X. I will put that pointer in that particular place. Okay, instead of recreating the record for the existing symbols for the existing records. Okay. And the important thing is format for entries does not have to be uniform. Okay, there is no common structure to store the information corresponding to all symbols. Okay, some symbols may have less attributes, some may have more attributes. Okay, so suppose let me give you a function name. So a function name is fun1. Okay, fun1 is having 3 parameters, right? And fun2 doesn't have any parameters. Okay, in either case, like in fun1 we have to create the name of the function 1, that is fun1, that must be stored in the record, followed by the parameter 1, followed by the parameter 2, followed by the parameter 3. But fun2, only the name is sufficient, there are no parameters. Okay, so there is no uniform structure while creating the records, right? So for lexemes also, if there is a maximum length for lexeme, all lexemes can be stored in table entries. If there is no maximum length, then it could be very difficult for us. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll use pointers. Okay. So what you call that unexpected length variables can be stored by means of the pointers. Okay, the length of the variable, if it increases, we don't know the limit, the pre-limit. Okay, prior condition. Okay, then those things can be stored somewhere, and the location of those record or the pointer or the array is stored in the symbol table, right? So it would be better if we have some limit for all lexemes together, but because of these flexibility given by the programming languages, this may not be possible. Okay, you can have some programming. Say, I will give you a small example. In some programming languages, the identifier name must be of size 32. It must start with a letter followed by letter or it may start with a letter or an underscore followed by letter or a digit followed by delimiter. Okay, and must be of length 32 characters. Okay, that is one imposition. Some constraint is there. Only 32 character identifiers of the names are only be allowed. But in some languages, the length of the name is not, it is not fixed. They can have running names, okay, like 256 characters or 500 characters. Okay, such programming languages is very, very difficult. It's not difficult as far as you have more memory to, like if you have more space in your symbol table to accommodate all the names, then it's not a problem, right? For me, sometimes screen is not visible, sir. Maybe that is due to your, network, I think, network error. Another option is to separate allocated space for every lexeme. Okay, these are some of the considerations, right? So we'll continue the remaining portion of this symbol table in the next class. So I have a meeting right now at 4 o'clock, scheduled to attend that meeting. So I will stop here. So if you have any doubts, you can quickly ask.